Hi, I'm Audrey Starborn. I'm a lifelong experiencer. I'm an identical twin who's also an abductee. We like to say experiencers because not all experiencers are abductees, but all abductees are contactees. So a lot of communication happens without removing the actual person through astral, through dreams, through different visions and so forth. They have quite a few ways of communicating when they want to. I believe that the ones that are taking physically, that they actually need to use some kind of genetic sampling that they need to actually physically get from us. Hybrid program, big one. I've been, I don't want to say victim of, but I've been a participant, not willingly, or at least not knowing willingly, of that hybrid program for a very long time. It was years before I even understood that what I was going through may be aliens. Back in the 70s, I was born in '73. My first 10 years in Ohio, that's where the contact began. Now, we were so small, and I'm talking in the crib still, when they'd come to get us, that my sister and I just assumed that that's just part of the natural sleep cycle and everybody gets it.
Yeah.
It wasn't until people started telling me that it didn't exist, it was just a dream, when I knew that was wrong, because dreams you can't smell, I smell them. Dreams you can't feel, I feel them, see them, it's a physical thing. So that does more harm than good. 2004, I had reached a really bad point in my life and decided I needed to just run away. I went to Florida and stayed with my aunt and uncle, who I barely knew at the time. And this was my first time in Florida. My whole life I've had a healthy respect, I don't like to say fear, healthy respect for the ocean and its contacts. I never liked to go in it, I've always had fear. So, you know, to me, more of outer space has been explored than our own oceans. So we don't belong there. We're not built for it. God knows what's back there waiting when you're swimming. You know, I just have this really weird, almost unnatural phobia, even when I was a child, of going in to the ocean. Any other water's fine, no ocean. Well, I was in Florida. I had just started a new job. I met a man, Kip, and he wanted to do something, so I decided to ask my aunt and uncle and Kip to go to Daytona Beach, right next to Ormond Beach, right on the line. Now, it was a beautiful day. I'm in Florida, never been there before. It was hot. Kip went in the water. My aunt and uncle stayed on the beach, and he coaxed me in. He said, let's get beyond the fear, just come in, up to your knees. I went in about this far, up to my knees, and right as I stepped in, I was grabbed by a rip current, pulled out to sea instantly. No idea what was going on. I remember fighting it at first. I remember watching Kip because he was in it, but he was able to get out of it because he was at the beginning of it. So he got out, swam as hard as he could, and got help. Now, in the meantime, I don't know if you understand what a rip current does, but it literally grabs you and pulls you out. Now, as it's building, you're dropped to the bottom of the ocean and you're standing there, and these waves are building up all around you, ready to come down. So as they would come down, I would jump to get momentum to keep my head above the water. I remember looking at the people who are now the size of ants, all the hundreds of people who have gathered, and all the emergency lights, and I thought to myself, that's all for me, I'm going to die. Well, I wasn't scared. It was more of a fear that came to me because when I left so suddenly, I left my family with some fractured relationships, said some bad things, felt really bad. So that's all I thought about. In a flash, I was above my body, and I'm looking down at myself, watching myself drown, looking at the beach, and I'm seeing, you know, there's 3 people there that love me, and they're watching this, and it was devastating. The next thing I know, I'm snapped back into my body, fighting for air again, and I come up in between cycles of the waves, and I hear my name being called 3 times, Audrey, Audrey, Audrey. It's coming from behind me in the open ocean. I looked towards where the voice was coming from, and there was this, I'm sorry, I get emotional, this beautiful blonde man with these amazing eyes. They'll never forget. They were almost opaque, but they had an amber glow to them. They were glowing. He said, Audrey, threw me a rope, and he said, you take this rope because this next wave is going to do us in. Took the rope, and I wrapped it around my wrist. Next thing I know, I'm on the beach being resuscitated by 5 lifeguards. I pushed him off me right away, got up because I was scared that the man that was trying to save me was still out there. I thought maybe it was a surfer, or maybe nobody saw him, and at the very least I wanted to say thank you for saving my life. Well, when I pushed them off of me and said, where's the blonde that saved me? Where is he? Where is he? They said, oh no, it took 5 of us swimming all we could to come and get you. We almost had to call the Coast Guard. You almost died. So they put me in an ambulance and they bring me to the hospital. And Kip comes in, the one that got out that was in the rip current with me, and he said, I saw the blonde that you're talking about. I saw him. You have a guardian angel. He saved you. So I had someone there for me that knew what happened, and he told everybody for the whole rest of his life. That's the first thing he said, was I watched this girl get saved by an angel. The next day I went to work, and there was newspapers spread all over our stations. We were florists. Kip worked with me. Our job had heard what happened because, of course, Kip had to call and tell everybody that I was rescued by an angel. So the next day we had all of the articles on my workstation telling about the rip current that hit that coast at that very same time, and everyone else caught in it died. I'm the only one that got out.
Wow.
So to say that was life-changing, it was really confusing at the time though, because I wasn't aware, like I said, of any ET species besides the grays, because I'd had hypnosis done to uncover that several years before. Well, right after my experience and my near-death, and I call it my rebirth, because my whole soul, everything I thought before, everything I felt I needed to do was different, and it was changed. And then I started to have visions in contact all the time, and they were pushing me to do something that I didn't want to do. I don't want to deal with this. Why are you choosing me? Well, once I started getting the premonitions and realizing that they're all coming true, and some other weird stuff happened, I took off and I went to Massachusetts, where I'm from, and drove to Maine, where I'm still at today. Now, on November 5th of 2006, I was visited by one of these beings. It was she was female. She was glowing white. She had the same eyes. She came to me and said, Audrey, it's time for you to start what you're here to do. And I said, okay, what is that? And they said, it's time for you to start a group to help people like you, to help the experiencers. They told me what to name it. They said, you call it Starborn Support. They said, someday the world will know who you are, you will help many, and everyone involved will become ambassadors for the planet. So what am I going to say? No, sorry, you got something better to do? No, ain't going to happen. I didn't know what to do. I could barely operate the computer. I started I think it was a MySpace page and phone number, and said, okay, there you go, I did it. And then from there it just kicked off, and I've been working with thousands of experiencers. They came to me again in 2012 and told me it was time to start gathering them. So that's when the conference was born, and they did tell me what to name that too. It seems that whatever's going on is not just extraterrestrial, in my opinion. This is biblical, this is interdimensional, this is a spiritual inner journey for many. I feel like we're the ground crew, and we're here to start helping the earth heal in the vibrations and frequencies we have to raise, as well as end the corruption and evil that is controlling this planet right now. So I do as much as I can, but because I'm doing what I'm told and doing it well, I've also become a target.
Sure.
I've had many attempts on my life.
Really?
A recent one a couple weeks ago, 2 of them. I've been shut down on the computer, the attempts on my life.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, let's see. The last one was my boyfriend, Travis Walton, a good friend of mine and roommate, Eric Mitchell, who you'll hear about his case really soon, and myself were in bed. And we woke up when it was a Tuesday morning, and I was freezing. And I have a brand new furnace. Now this furnace is perfect. I mean, I just put it in the year before. It operated for 1 season. Now I know how much fuel I had and how long it should last. I called the gas company to see about my K1, and they said, Audrey, it shouldn't be empty. You go out and check it. So I went outside and checked it, and it was bone dry. It never goes bone dry. I had at least 2-3 months to go. Now, when I first called them, I asked them to come and make a delivery, and they said, well, it's not on our scheduled route. We'll have to charge you $100 to do it off route.
Yeah.
Why don't you go to Walmart and buy a jug of K1 and wait till Friday? I did that. I had Eric get it. He poured it in, but something inside me said, you need to call them back. So I called them back, and I said, I want you to come out here. I'll pay the $100. Just do the delivery, please. Well, I brought Travis to the airport. When the guy showed up to deliver oil, Eric, my roommate, then says that there was a knock on the door. So he let the guy in. The guy said he was from the oil company, and he was here to look at the furnace. So Eric showed him where the furnace was. And I told Eric, really pay attention to what he's doing in case this happens again. We need to do something. Ask, is there a reset? Ask some questions.
Yeah.
So he stood over the guy's shoulder, and the guy opens up the unit, and he stopped for a minute, and he looked up, and he said, I don't know who was in here last, but whoever it was is intentionally trying to kill you.
Wow.
And he said, I don't know how you lived through last night, but you would have died tonight. Now, what they did, whoever they are, is come into my house, clamped all the vents that would release the carbon monoxide. Then they put in a piece of fabric that reacts to the K1, and then when it gets wet, it evaporates and turns to a poison, and then it will set fire.
Oh, wow.
So this furnace is right near my bedroom. I've got 2 floor vents that blast it right into my room. There's floor vents all over the house. It's central. Everything in there would have died, and then my house would have caught fire and nobody would have known. Well, when I heard this, of course I'm panicking, saying, what? And he explained, he had to rebuild the whole system. He was in here fixing it, removing stuff, and he did all kinds of stuff. So I said, did you get his name or anything? He said, oh no, but call Dead River. It was the guy that was at your house. I said, all right, well, I'm going to think about this. I don't know what to do. The next day I get a call from my oil company. And they said, it's time to schedule a routine appointment to fix your furnace. And I said, well, what about the guy that was there yesterday? He practically rebuilt the whole thing. And they said, Audrey, we didn't send anybody in there yesterday. And I said, what are you talking about? I just need to talk to him because he said what was wrong and I wasn't home. And he said, Audrey, there's nobody from our service department that went there. They only came and dropped off oil. And I said, well, I called you guys. And she said, Audrey, I am the service department. It wasn't us.
Wow.
So now I don't even know what to do. Second time this past month, went to Travis Walton's house, my boyfriend. We went for a conference in Sedona. I had to rent a car because his truck wasn't running well. So I followed him very slowly with my hazards going through the really dark, windy roads of Arizona. Well, next thing you know, I have this giant SUV behind me with 2 sets of headlights and then some fog lamps that were set on blind. And he came right up behind me, he's on my butt, then he drive right up next to me, kind of sliding me over, and he's going behind me and next to me, really intimidating. I was freaking out. So I called Travis and I said, look, I said, we need to do something about this guy. I said, well, let's pull over. So we pulled over and he pulled over and he stopped and he sat there with us. So then we went a little further and he said, look, why don't you pull off the road, pull right in front of me, because we did have weapons, but they were in the trunk. So I pulled right in front of him. We pulled off. It was planned, pull in front of him, pop the trunk, get out, grab the guns. The guy pulls off with us and is sitting there blazing us with his lights. What we didn't realize was there was only one way in and one way out, so we had to turn around and go back that way. Well, at this point, the guy saw us pull what we pulled out of the trunk. So he backed up and he went ahead of us. So Travis says, get up behind him and get his license plate. So, I mean, I was going like 100 trying to get this guy's plate, but he ran. And then, 20 minutes later, we're cruising down and here come the cops. So the cops pulled us over and we explained to him what happened, and he said, yeah, that was the guy who called us. And they did radio ahead and told all the other cops that we were coming through and they'd already dealt with it and filled him in. I ended up getting a tow truck, putting Travis's truck on the truck and drove back behind the tow truck, which was this big monster truck, So that was the last one, but there's been many. My emails, my phones, my cable, everything's been tampered with. They have stopped any emails coming into my support group. They stole my domain name and my website. I called the company and said, what's going on? I've owned this for 10 years, I've prepaid, what's up? And they said, well, this is really strange. Somebody bought it and we can't find who it is. It's like they weird. Just disappeared. So that was the beginning of the end of Experiencer Speak, because then they started holding all the emails and they were telling people that it was sold out. Whoever was answering my phone, when it's rerouted, it doesn't go to my Starborn hotline anymore. So whoever was doing that, that was the beginning. So my phones are all monitored. I'm constantly surveilled. Kathy Martin published a picture that I had taken of one of the black helicopters that just wanted to come in and intimidate me. I live in a little tiny town in Maine in a trailer park. And this thing, I was washing dishes, and this thing came down eye level and stared me down in the helicopter. So I went outside and took a picture, which Kathy Martin published in her book. Now, the first day Eric moves into my house, I tell everybody, if you're going to be here, I'm a target, be careful. I don't want anybody getting hurt because of me. So he had taken a shower, he was in the shower, and I started hearing a helicopter, and I have a skylight in my shower. Well, this helicopter was positioned over the skylight, videotaping Eric in the shower. Eric's another experiencer, Eric Mitchell. He's got the biggest case I've ever heard of, more evidence than anyone. So they don't want him to do that either.
How long before the Q&A?
Are you ready?
I'm just getting
8
my
minutes, about 6
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. Well, can you tell people where to find your stuff online?
Sure. My group's name is Starborn Support. You can Google Audrey Hewins or Audrey Starborn. The phone number is 207-461-0628, and that's a 24-hour hotline. If you don't hear back from me, please try to reach me another way. Audrey Starborn at yahoo.com or Audrey Hewins on Facebook to message me. We also have a radio show on Sunday nights or Saturday nights on KGRA called Starborn Connections that you can listen to. I'm not personally a host, but some of my team is. So, we help experiencers through a lot, and that's my assignment. So I'm happy to be doing my job.
All right, awesome, thank you.
No problem.